Issue 17, Stormbringer magazine. One paint pot and one pot of liquid talent. Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games, and today we're looking at issue 17 of our continuing series of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer. Now this issue is a paint resupply issue with two new paints, or two resupplies of paints, which is a Baden Black and the Agrax Earthshade. Now a shade or a wash is more commonly known to people who enjoy GW's products as liquid talent. Basically it stains the model and kind of gives depth and shadow and things like that. Now, Agrax Earthshade kind of gives a dirty little kind of grimy shade, which would be great for things like orcs or earthen formations or kind of, a kind of a mucky feel. But as for the issue itself, again, it has some aspects of lore, but it focuses mainly on paints. But of course, we'll look at the lore here. So what's interesting here, and I didn't know about this until I read it, was the war clans. So the Cruel Boys Claw actually have they have representation for the hand, so obviously they use the hand an awful lot or have symbols of the hand, but the military formation that they use would be the actual claw. So you have one leader figure, which of course is at the thumb, and the four mobs. So is the leader figure would of course be the thumb, so it's the strongest digit and the mark of the cunning toolmaker. So that would represent the claw boss or shaman. The index finger, of course, is the largest and strongest warriors. The middle finger is the most raucous of their number, so they're the ones that kind of rise people up. So, of course, if you flip someone the middle finger, they are going to get a wee bit upset at you. You have the trophy finger, or the wedding finger, of course, is for showing off, basically, I suppose, the loot, your spoils or loots or what you have done. And the light finger, which I like, is in charge of stealing. So if you're very light fingered, you're kind of good at whipping bits and pieces. So it's just a nice little bit of background to the Cruel Boys and the Oruks. You of course here have a little breakdown of the Cruel Boys war clans, and you have different factions such as the Grinning Blades, the Big Yellers, and the Skull Bugs. Now, it does touch into a little bit of the history of the Mortal Realms. So you've got the Age of Chaos, which basically they came in and they were very manipulative of the Mortal Realms before they kind of invaded en masse. You have here, of course, the Corruption of the Realms and the Dominion of Chaos, so when they kind of came in and the old world fell. There's a lot of paint technique in this issue, so if you're someone who's kind of a veteran with painting, it's probably not the issue for you, but nevertheless, there is, if this is a new series for you, there is very good advice here in terms of thinning paints. Now, as anyone who watches YouTube knows, Duncan Rhodes is famous for telling people to thin his paints, and the reason it's repeating so often is because he's right. Thinning your paints does help with your models an awful lot. So of course it goes into different techniques, kind of dry brushing, tidying base coats, things like that. It even kind of aspects in keeping your brush clean. So nice basic little tips for the new painter. Of course it has here on how to paint your Cruel Boys and Stormcast Eternals with the two new paints that you got. So using a Baden Black, for example, on the Stormcast Eternals for the leather, and Agrax Earthshade to stain some of the little bits and pieces, like say the scrolls or the little bit of robes, or even to kind of to stain the headdress, as you can see here. So just to give it a bit of shade and a bit of depth. You have the same thing here, of course, for the Cruel Boys. And of course you have also something called battle traits. So every force has its own battle trait, which is kind of like an extra little trick that is unique to them in the rules. So for example, the Stormcast Eternals have the Signs of the Storm, which is basically they come down from they come down in a ball of lightning, and in some cases they can come down behind enemy lines. Whereas the Cruel Boys have what are called dirty tricks. So like the first one, the Noisy Racket, gives a kind of a it subtracts 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by the enemy. And Covered in Mud is basically makes them kind of invisible, so a touch of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Predator to them, that the Stormcast Eternals apparently can't see them if they're covered in mud. You have here some more war scrolls for the Lord Imperatant, and you have the mission which is Lightning Strikes Twice. So that is issue 17, and these of course are the 2 paints that you get. So Abaddon Black, of course, is named after Abaddon, who is the main one of the main bad guys in the Warhammer 40k, and of course it's a play on words in that he's a bad one, or in an English accent, Abaddon, so a bad one. And of course Agrex Earthshade, which is commonly known as Liquid Talent. So that's what you get in issue 17. So join us next time for issue 18, in which we have 5 new minis. So until then, good luck, God bless, stay safe, and praise Sigmar.